Ayan had never been the kind of man who drew attention. He was quiet, polite, and lived a simple life driving the school bus every morning and afternoon. He'd memorized every stop, every child's name, and the exact timing of the traffic lights on his route. It wasn't an exciting life, but it gave him peace. He found comfort in routine, especially after years of unpredictability. He had no complaints, until the day Hira stepped onto his bus. She wasn't loud or flashy. She simply walked in, smiled kindly, and greeted him with a soft, "Good morning." That was it. Yet something in the way she spoke, the calmness in her voice, lingered with him all day. First he thought it was just newness. But the following days proved otherwise. Her presence had started to become the most anticipated part of his day. They began with small exchanges. Weather, traffic, how hectic the kids had been. Hira always had stories about her class, how one student confused the solar system with kitchen utensils, or how another gifted her a drawing of a super teacher. Ayan listened silently, offering only short replies, but his eyes always softened when she spoke. Days turned to weeks. She'd wait till all the children boarded, then take the seat near the front. Every time she stepped on the bus, Ayan straightened his posture, as if her presence demanded a little more of him. She noticed but never mentioned it. Their friendship grew in quiet spaces, built on consistent glances and quiet understanding. One afternoon, heavy clouds hung over the city. As the school bell rang, rain poured without warning. Most kids squealed and rushed to the bus, soaked and laughing. Hira, without an umbrella, tried shielding herself with her bag. When she stepped in, shivering and wet, Ayan didn't speak. He simply took off his jacket and handed it to her. She hesitated for a second, then accepted it with a smile that said more than thanks. The ride home was quiet, filled only with the sound of rain and the occasional giggle from the back seats. When she got off, she returned the jacket and whispered, "You're too kind." Ayan didn't respond. He just gave a small nod and drove away, carrying the warmth of her words long after the engine cooled. That evening, Hira laughed with her best friend Farah on a call, joking about the bus hero. Farah teased, "Sounds like someone's got a secret admirer," but Hira denied it. Still, she couldn't help but think about how safe she felt on that bus, something she hadn't felt in a long time. The next morning, Ayan heard her mention her fiancé during a casual conversation with another teacher outside the school. She spoke of him fondly, yet Ayan caught a flicker in her eyes. Distant, unsure. He said nothing. His hands gripped the steering wheel a little tighter that day, but his smile never wavered when she stepped on board. Because even if she was never his, she had unknowingly become part of the world he looked forward to. After hearing Hira mention her fiancé, Ayan kept his distance emotionally, though his behavior remained unchanged. He still greeted her with the same quiet respect, still drove the same route with the same care, but inside something had shifted. He reminded himself that lines must be respected, that kindness should never be mistaken for something more. But Hira, unaware of his inner restraint, continued talking to him, sharing stories, laughing softly in ways that made it harder for Ayan to ignore what was growing inside him. On the day of the school trip, Hira seemed tired but excited. The kids were lively and the day was long. When they finally returned and all the students had left, Hira remained in the last row, eyes closed, shoes off, completely exhausted. Ayan hesitated, then walked back to check on her. She opened her eyes slowly and smiled. "I needed a moment," she said. He nodded, unsure of what to say. She patted the seat beside her. He sat down, maintaining a safe space between them. She spoke, voice softer than usual. "Sammy's been distant. Work, pressure, maybe other things. I don't even know anymore." Anne didn't ask questions. He just listened. She continued, "Sometimes I feel more heard in these short rides with you than in hours of conversations with him." Ayan looked down, unsure if he should feel honored or ashamed. "I'm not trying to confuse things," she added quickly. I trust you." That night her first message came. It was a simple thank you for listening. Then a poem. Then a photo of the drawing one of her students gave her. Soon it became routine. Late-night messages turned into voice notes, thoughtful and vulnerable. Ayan didn't encourage them, but he didn't stop them either. Every message felt like a quiet confession she couldn't make elsewhere. Farah noticed the shift in Hira. One afternoon she said, "You know this isn't fair, right? To either of them. You need to be honest, with yourself first." Hira brushed it off with a nervous laugh, but the words stayed with her. Meanwhile, Ayan began avoiding long talks. He stopped replying to her messages after work. Hira sensed the change and confronted him gently. "Did I do something wrong?" He shook his head. "No. I just don't want to be someone's escape. You have someone. I'm just a stranger behind a steering wheel." She didn't respond immediately, but her eyes held a question she didn't voice. A week later, after another long school event, Hira dozed off again on the back seat. Ayan noticed as he locked up. He didn't wake her. Instead, he took off his jacket, draped it over her shoulders, and drove in silence. She stirred but didn't open her eyes. There was no conversation, no touch beyond the fabric he left behind. Just a man quietly loving someone he knew he could never ask for, choosing respect over desire, and presence over pressure. Ayan arrived earlier than usual that morning, sipping tea in the parked bus when he noticed a car pull into the school lot. It was Sammy's. Hira stepped out, but something was off. Their conversation looked intense, sharp gestures from Sammy, folded arms from Hira. Ayan couldn't hear them, but the argument was written all over their faces. Sammy drove off without waiting for a reply, and Hira stood frozen for a moment before heading inside. That day, she didn't sit near Ayan. She avoided eye contact altogether. Later that evening, her message arrived. It was longer than usual. She admitted that Sammy had read her messages with Ayan, that he had accused her of emotional cheating. She didn't deny it. "He's not wrong," she wrote. "I crossed lines. I didn't mean to, but I did. And I'm sorry if I hurt you in the process." Ayan read the message several times before typing a reply, then deleting it. He didn't know what to say. The next day, she waited till the last student got off before walking up to the front. "Do you hate me now?" she asked. Ayan looked straight ahead. "No. I just don't know who I was to you." Her expression fell. "You were someone who listened, who never judged, who made me feel human again." He didn't smile. "Then why did it all feel like a secret?" Hira tried to explain, but every word sounded like a defense she no longer believed. "You made me feel safe," she whispered. "That's not nothing." Ayan finally turned to her. "It's not nothing. That's why I never acted on it. Because I knew if it meant something, it couldn't be temporary or hidden or confused." She looked down, fighting tears. "I don't know how to fix this," she said. He replied, "Maybe it's not about fixing. Maybe it's about not repeating." She reached out as if to touch his hand, but he gently moved away. "You're engaged, Hira. Whatever this was, it shouldn't have happened like this." She nodded, slowly backing away, then stepped off the bus without another word. That was the last real conversation they had. In the days that followed, the silence between them became heavier than words. She still rode the same bus, but their eyes never met. The children laughed, unaware of the emotional storm passing quietly in the front row. Farah noticed the difference in Hira. One afternoon she asked directly, "Are you in love with him?" Hira didn't answer. Instead, she stared out the window and said, "I don't think I even know what love is anymore." At night, Ayan would sit on his bed, reading the old messages she'd sent. He didn't respond to the new ones. He knew if he replied now, it wouldn't be out of respect or restraint, it would be weakness. And he had already sacrificed enough of himself to a bond that was never meant to be his. Ayan submitted his resignation without announcing it to anyone. No farewell speech, no explanation, just a quiet exit. The school found a replacement within days. Some noticed, most didn't. Hira did. She waited after the last bell, hoping to see him pull up like always, but it was a different face behind the wheel. That evening she received a short message. You deserve someone who won't just listen but also be chosen. Be well. Ayun. It was the last message he ever sent. She stared at the screen for a long time. Her chest tightened. It wasn't heartbreak she felt. It was clarity. Ayun never asked for anything, never demanded space in her life, yet he'd filled it quietly, deeply. And she had treated his presence like a distraction, not the rare gift it had been. She deleted the thread but kept the words burned into memory. Hira ended her engagement 2 weeks later. Sammy didn't fight her decision. Perhaps he had already given up. There were no dramatic confrontations, no tears, just the slow collapse of something that had already been hollow for months. Hira didn't rush to explain herself to anyone. For the first time, she needed space to understand who she was without the noise of guilt or confusion. She transferred departments, moved into student counseling, and found purpose in guiding young minds who struggled silently, just as she once did. She read more, spent time alone, reconnected with herself in ways she hadn't since college. Life became quieter, but it no longer felt empty. 6 months later, at a district education event in a nearby city, Hira arrived early to review schedules. The last thing she expected was to see Ayun standing across the parking lot, holding a clipboard, organizing student pickups. For a second, she wondered if her mind was playing tricks. But then he turned and their eyes met. He looked healthier, calmer, like someone who had finally made peace with the weight he once carried. She approached slowly. Didn't think I'd see you here, she said. He smiled gently. Life keeps moving. I just learned to move with it. There was no bitterness in his tone, just maturity. She told him about her career shift, how she finally understood what it meant to choose honesty over comfort. I hurt people, she admitted. But I learned. And I changed. He nodded. That's all anyone can do. Change when it matters. She looked at him and whispered, Thank you for never taking advantage of what I couldn't see clearly then. He replied, Thank you for reminding me that not all love needs to be claimed to be real. They didn't exchange numbers. No promises, no second chances. Just mutual respect wrapped in a moment of silent closure. As Hira walked back toward the building, a soft smile tugged at her lips. Sometimes the most profound connections didn't end in love stories, but in better versions of the people who survived them.